G'day guys, Mac with the Outer Circle. Today I'm going to be looking at the exemplary battles in the Age of Darkness, this series that they've started putting out in the Warhammer community. We're going to look at the Atramentar specifically, and talk about them a little bit. I'm not going to touch on the actual rules very much, supplied in the PDF. I'm saving those up for later. I have the Battle of Pluto ones to do, and I've also got the Ultramar Realm ones to do. So I will get to those in due time. Now, I haven't put out many videos lately because just life, unfortunately, has put me in my place. So I've been way too busy with actual work because this is obviously not my day job. This is a hobby I do on the side, and my actual day job is running a factory, and that takes a lot of managing. Anyway, let's talk about this. So, first of all, some salt might flow at some point with these releases, but the whole point of these PDFs is it is fantastic. For 4 years, starting between book 7 and book 8, I started saying, let's get some releases in PDF form from Forge World. Great, and we're getting some now. Okay, I really ramped it up between books 8 and 9. The road to Thramas, the very long road that it was. I said, why can't we have some releases? Bring out some PDFs, things like that. Keep the heresy going. And it's really great to see, whether they've done a good job or a bad job, that they're at least attempting it. And to be fair, they're doing a pretty good job of it. My only complaint is, where have they been for the last 4 years? I think that's pretty fair. Pretty fair to say that. For 4 years, we've gotten 4 years since we got 3 black books. We're getting one every second year at the moment, the rate we're going, and it sucks. It sucks a lot. We're about to go into a 5th year with only the 3 black books. It looks like we're going to get a Siege of Terra game before that, but for some reason, the radio silence is very much there still over at Games Workshop /Forge World. I don't know why. We're not getting anything out of the radio silence. It's just stupid. The only thing that also needs pointing out is FAQ. Come on, Forge World. Drop a fucking FAQ once in a while. It won't kill you. Okay, right now we have these PDFs coming out, which are great. They're giving us extra missions, a couple of extra units, especially units people have wanted, like Huskars, and of course the Atramentar. But what about fixing some of the broken stuff that's in the game already, implementing it better? That's something that could be done, surely. Type a line in a PDF that changes the points cost on a unit, for instance. Like maybe make, anti-aircraft whirlwinds not the worst unit in the Horus Heresy. I don't know, just something. Now the negatives. Actual negatives here about this release, and it's a very minor negative. It's a little blemish on an otherwise polished piece of bronze. Why the Night Lords? The Night Lords and the Pharos Lighthouse rampaging through Ultramar, yeah, cool. Thing is, I'm pretty sick and tired of seeing Night Lords. We have a Legion here who, if I quickly duck over onto Forge World's webpage, is pretty damn well catered for. They have Contemptor Dreadnought, they have their own dice, upgrade weapons for their units, they have Praetor, both in Terminator armor, in Power armor, they have Raptors in their fast assaults. If they had the helmets, they would at least have Terror Squads, they've got vehicle doors, they've got Leviathan Dreadnought, they've got a special character, they've got a Primarch. Now, very much, I will use the Iron Warriors as an example here. So, with the Iron Warriors, when this page decides to load itself up properly, the Iron Warriors, why don't we revisit them? We've got Primarch, we've got the Iron Circle, we've got a Legion Dreadnought. No Iron Havocs. At least they've got Legion, dice, but they've got no servo harness for their Warsmiths, so you have to go and buy Tech Marines and try and convert it out of that. They have the Tyrant Siege Terminators, but where's their Leviathan? Like, if any Legion would have a Leviathan, you'd think it would be the Iron Warriors. And in fact, where are their Praetors in general? Sons of Horus have 3 Praetors at this point, plus 3 special characters. What are we doing with the Iron Warriors? And that's one example. It doesn't have to be Iron Warriors. Let's look at something else. What about, let's go Loyalists. Raven Guard. Pick Iron Hands, I'll pick Raven Guard. So we've got some helmets and some shoulder pads. Yep. We've got a Primarch. No Legion special weapons, even though you think Raven Guard specific lightning course should be a thing. It's an upgrade specific to the Legion, you know. They've got a Contemptor. They don't have any custom Terminators, even though the Deliverers, which are their Terminators, are not super common. They had them, but we don't have those. We don't have a Leviathan. We don't have any characters or consoles, which kind of sucks because you think something like the Dark Fury backpack, and you don't want to buy an extra squad of Dark Furies just to turn one to a character, do you? So these are all things that could definitely be improved, and because they took the Legion Mark 6 away from the web store, yes, you can buy some in resin still, and you can buy this upgrade kit, but you can't buy the Sergeant in Mark 6 Power Armor upgrade kit with the Vexilia and all that fits that armor. There's all sorts of problems with the Raven Guard, and this same thing carries across to the Iron Hands and the Salamanders, if we go across to both those legions, and bear with me, I'm making a point here. So, Salamanders. No special characters. They have the Venerable Dreadnought Braeth Ashmantle, who I guess you could use it as Cassian Dracos, who's a custom Dreadnought, I guess. But no special characters, no Cyphus Jur or anything like that. Yep, they've got their Pyroclasts, they've got their Fire Drakes, but they've got no Praetors. They don't have a Leviathan Dreadnought. And again, like the Iron Warriors, Salamanders are heavily invested in vehicles and artificer weapons. If any legions are going to have Leviathan Dreadnoughts, it's going to be, or custom Derodeo Dreadnoughts, dare I say, for something cool, it's going to be the Iron Hands, the Iron Warriors, and the Salamanders. They're all vehicle heavy, they're all battlesuit heavy, they're all Terminator heavy. So, something worth pointing out. That's a problem for me. And also, Salamanders, Book 2. Iron Hands, Book 2. Iron Warriors, Book 3. Raven Guard, Book 3. None of them had a good revisit, especially these Shattered Legion forces. So, when they could be releasing a campaign or supplement to do with Shattered Legions, and releasing miniatures and rules for those Shattered Legions and additional units, they're not using that opportunity wisely here. Now again, this is not a terrible thing, but I needed to make the point and reinforce why it's actually an issue. Because you've got to share the love around a bit equally, and the Night Lords have really had a day in the sun. The Ultramarines, yeah, they haven't really been visited since Calth, yeah. But if you really want to visit Ultramarines, you could do something like, say, the Shadow Crusade. World Eaters and Word Bearers versus Ultramarines. That is definitely something you could do, especially if we don't get any Black Books in future. That's an option open to us as a community. So, Andy Hall, if you're listening, why don't you look at doing something like that? Rather than visiting legions, which already have a crapload of stuff, try and give a little love to some of the other legions and some of the other conflicts, especially something like the Raven Guard or Iron Hands or Salamanders, those Shattered Legions, because you can play smaller skirmish-type games with those, rather than these other legions where you're going to have the big, 3,000, 4,000 point battles. Why don't you look at some of those smaller forces who, are fighting tooth and nail and really play out those narrative campaigns you can have a lot of fun with. But again, it's just a little blemish. So they've included some rules here. They're talking about this particular campaign. And, we'll just quickly flick over to them now. So the Night Lords Atramentar, 270 points. So not a cheap unit starting, but we'll get back to that. Weapon skill 5, so ever so slightly above the average Terminator. Their war gear, combi bolter and a power weapon of any type, very standard for Terminators. Tartarus pattern Terminator armor, we'll put an asterisk next to that because we'll get back to it. Teleportation transponder built in, interesting. Trophies of Judgment built in, also interesting. So the unit's going to cause fear, and they are able to deep strike. Now, Deep strike, deep strike, deep strike. Well, first option available to them is up to 15 additional Atramentar at only 30 points each, which is bargain basement. This is the price of, if not slightly cheaper than regular Legion Terminators, with an additional point of weapon skill. They also are scoring, like Legion Terminators. They have the Cloaked in Murder special rules, so if you charge them and they're not locked in close combat, then you count as a disordered charge, so you don't get any charge bonus, so such as Furious Charge, Rage, or an additional attack. And Sworn Loyalty, so they can become troops choices in any detachment that includes Sevatar, but only if he becomes the warlord of the army, which is... it's power creep. That's the only way I can put it. 30 points is too cheap for this. And the unit tax, 270 points, is not really that crazy to begin with. It's a little bit on the high side, but it's not crazy on the high side for those special rules. And nobody's going to run them in squads of 5. You're looking at probably 8 to 10 is going to be the average. I think if you've ran a full squad of 20 of these Terminators as a unit, balls the size of brass bell towers, deep striking that in, because that is just asking for a mishap and things to go horribly, horribly wrong. But balls of steel if you do it. And for every 5 models, you can add a Heavy Flamer, a Reaper Autocannon, or a Plasma Blaster. So you could have a ridiculous amount of firepower in the squad if they're all armed with, say, Plasma Blasters and Combi Weapon Plasmas, which is an option. And only 15 points for the Plasma Blaster and 7 points for the Combi Plasma. It's a very points-efficient squad. If you have a choice between this and a regular Terminator squad, this is basically going to be outright superior once you go to like 8 to 10 models. It is ridiculously good. It's not outright broken, but it's definitely power crept, because it's essentially saying, why would you take regular Legion Terminators? Interesting choices of war gear, though, is you can exchange their basic weapons, which will be a power sword, power axe, or power maul, and a combi bolt. You could change that to a Nostraman chain glaive. Interesting thing about it is you only exchange your power weapon for it, even though it's a two-handed weapon, which is interesting. Which means you can still keep your ranged weapon on the squad. So you're not really sacrificing much for that. A Nostraman chain glaive is not an especially strong weapon, but in numbers it's terrifying. And for free, it's just perfectly fine, points-wise. Power Fist for 5 points is good. Lightning Core, 5 points. Okay. You can get a pair of Lightning Cores, but it's 15 points. Thunderhammer, 15. Funny enough, any of them can take a power Thunderhammer, and any of them can take a Chain Fist. You can have a full unit for 40 points a model, all with Chain Fists. Or for 45 points a model, they all have Thunderhammers. I think that would be overkill on the Thunderhammer front, unless you're fighting Custodes. It would get really bad for Custodes, because you'll knock them down to initiative zip, and belt the snot out of them while they can't hurt you because you've got 2+ saves. Yeah, I'd be terrified of the whole squad being armed with things like Chain Fists and Dual Lightning Cores. A good mix 50-50 of that that's gonna cause a lot of problems. And the Truciador taking the Headsman Axe is nasty weapon. So yeah, strong unit. To take a step back though, and again, the little blemish on the bronze. Well, actually, it's 2 blemishes. So the first is the fact that they are a strong unit. A unit doesn't need to be better in order to justify its existence. The fact is, people will use it because of the rule of cool. If it is better, great, I guess. Big shrug here. I don't want a unit to be useless, but I want the unit to not be an auto-include over something else. In this case, it's kind of an auto-include over regular Legion Terminators, I feel. Is it? Debatable. I think Night Lords players will really have to decide that amongst themselves. But yeah, I don't feel like something should be an auto-include. And we can see that they're armored in Tartarus pattern Terminator armor. Well, why? I can only guess it's because that's what someone converted for themselves here. They've taken what looks like maybe a Retributor shoulder pad, this one here with the lion's head on it. They've taken that and put it onto a Tartarus Terminator. Now, these are not Contacar. These have Contacar torsos and the left shoulder pad off a Contacar. And then they've added the Stormcast Eternal shoulder pad on the right, and the rest of the body and weapons and war gear is regular Tartarus Terminator armor, except for they bought a crap load of chain glaives. So this has to be someone, well, of course it is, it's someone who works at Games Workshop / Forge World. Because if you wanted to buy those 5 chain glaives, let's see, I'm an Australian, so these are going to be Australian prices. Be afraid, be highly, highly afraid, because Australian prices are terrifying. But Trail Legions, Night Lords, so you get 1 Terminator chain glaive in a $40 chain glaive set. So in order to make this squad as presented with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chain glaives in it, I would have to spend 200 Australian dollars just for the chain glaives. I mean, at least I would have plenty of infantry ones for power armor left over that I could put onto some power armored guys. You know, that's neat. This is a ridiculously costly, conversion I'm seeing right here. Plus the fact that you have to sacrifice. Let's do some maths, guys. Let's have some fun here. I'm going to grab my phone and I'm going to plug some numbers in. This is all live on air to give you an idea as an Australian what it's going to cost to make this unit convert it. As shown. It's not how I would do it, but I'm not even going to look at the Retributor shoulder pads here. Let's just pretend you found 10 of them. So I'm going to say $200 for the chain glaives. Let's see. See if we can find some Tartarus. All right, so we need 2 squads of those. So that's going to be another 196 right there. And then, of course, we're going to need the Contacar Terminators. So we're going to need the 10 torsos. So that's another 308. What else have they used here? Well, we won't even include the Zone Mortalis Necromunda bases that they've got. No, that's fine. We'll pretend that all the other weapons on them are weapons that they came in the plastic kits. Yeah, there's some upgrade bits, like there's an old Chaos Lord chain tabard, or sort of like a belt and hanging chains on one of the guys on the left. That's from the old Chaos Lord. But the rough numbers is 704 Australian dollars before you include the extra conversion little bits like shoulder pads and such. And they use Night Lord's helmets on these guys too, I think. I don't think those are Contacar Terminators. Nope, those are not Contacar helmets. Those are regular Legion power armor helmets. So you can probably slap another $32 on top of that. So 736 Australian dollars for one 10-man unit. I don't think that's a little excessive. I think that's a little excessive. That's probably just me. But that's my guess as why they're in Tartarus armor. I always thought they were in Cataphractii Terminator armor, but people are saying otherwise. Actually, there's a lot of conjecture. So I found this picture of Sevatar novel, and you can see that there is the Cataphractii Terminator in the background, but we can't be certain if it's an Atramentar because the shoulder pad is hidden from view. But being Sevatar's first company, hanging out with him, it would make sense that it is an Atramentar. We also have an image of this guy here, who's out of book 3 from... from book 2 from Forge World, showing an Atramentar member, supposedly, who's also in Cataphractii Terminator armor. So, should the Night Lord's Atramentar be in Cataphractii? Not necessarily, but they should at least have the option of it, as opposed to being Tartarus. Now, on the bright side of things, the Praetor, who's available, is... I went blind. There on the left. He's in Tartarus, so he'll fit in well. But Atramentar are designed to go with Night Lords, Praetors, and Terminator. They're designed to go with Sevatar, who's actually just in power armor. So, much for muchness in that regard. I guess it comes down to what's available to them. And one of the interesting arguments I saw from people is that, well, it makes sense they're in Tartarus armor. The Night Lords they're a very hit-and-run legion. No, guys. This is where you're making the excuses on their behalf. Because think about it. The Night Lords do rely on a lot of fast-paced assaults. Yes. Terminators are not for fast-paced assaults. Terminators are for when you need to bring in the heavy hitters and, rugby tackle or gridiron tackle, American football tackle your way through that door. They're not meant to be a rapid assault element as such. That is the regular power armor, the jump troops, jet bikes, that kind of thing. Move in rapidly, assault the enemy, and get out of there. Terminators are for when you've really got to get things done because you got to come to huge amounts of firepower. The Raven Guard use Cataphractii. The Sons of Horus, who are a very fast-paced, rapid assault army, use Cataphractii a lot. They're Justirian and Cataphractii. There is nothing wrong with using Cataphractii, and it makes a lot more sense because it has been around for longer. It's the first sort of sets of armor. And it makes sense that the veterans are going to have that older armor style. Now, it makes even more sense you're going to stick with Cataphractii over Tartarus because the Night Lords are a very untrusted legion. And when it comes to getting handed new equipment, they didn't get handed new equipment. See, Horus was using a lot of the best equipment for his closest allies. He was giving a lot of armor to the Death Guard, to the Emperor's Children, to the Word Bearers, to the Alpha Legion, who, even though he didn't super trust them, the Alpha Legion was acquiring a lot of new shit anyway, like Mark 6 power armor, because they had their contacts. The Night Lords, though, and the World Eaters, the batshit insane legions, Horus was like, well, they'll probably side with me, but just in case, I'm not going to go give them all the best equipment, because who knows what the hell these wildcards are going to do. Now, you think, Mark 4 power armor is still slowly rolling out to the legions in this time. It's the traders who are getting it predominantly, and again, it's those legions like the Emperor's Children and the Sons of Horus and the Word Bearers who exclusively are the ones who are getting the most of it. And then you look over at the Loyalists, and they're sticking with a lot of Mark II and Mark III. And they're only just getting their sort of first sets of Mark IV rolling in, whatever the traders can sort of spare to keep up appearances. And the Tartarus armor is a derivative of Mark IV technology combined with Cataphractii armor technology and Indomitus pattern, which is also a Terminator armor type, which is just sort of starting to make its way out there. So, in the lore of the universe, it doesn't make much sense that the Night Lords are going to have the newest of the new armor en masse and equip their entire 100 members of the first company of the Atramentar Terminators in this Tartarus when they're going to be veterans. They're going to have their old suits that they're attached to, and they're the heavy hitters. These guys are a shock element as opposed to a rapid response element. But that's my thoughts. As I said, I can't confirm nor deny it. We have these images here to work off, but also, we've got the Contakar, who are an existing Night Lords unit that people convert from at Forge World. It's up to you what you do with it. I think it would have been better to just say to people, you've got the option of Terminator armors, and if I really had to nail it down to one, I'd say they should be in Cataphractii. And that's how I've always seen it. And that's the artwork I've always seen, but of course the ones I'll reference as being the newest is this stuff here, and, well, the one Terminator in Sevatar's company with the right colours to be in his company, he is in Cataphracti. And again, look at the guys around him. They're not in Mark IV. There's lots of Mark II power armor there. Why? Because they don't have access to Mark IV. Because they're filthy traitors. Sevatar even himself didn't get Mark IV till pretty late on. Siege of Terror, basically. He was rocking around in Mark III, I believe it was, for a lot of it. So, yeah. That's, I think, on the Atramentar. And again, it's little blemishes, just tiny little blemishes on what I otherwise think is a really solidly done thing. But I have to go in depth into why I have my slight misgivings with these things. Not because I think it's a major issue, but because if I just say, they shouldn't give Night Lords, they're giving Night Lords too much time in the sun, and I move on, people won't understand why. They'll just say, what the fuck is that supposed to mean, Mako? I know this from hard-earned experience on YouTube, because I get hundreds of those comments every week. And so I have to go into it in depth and explain it to people, break it down to all these little details that really we don't care for. So there you go. Also, shout out to the madman who made the $736 Terminator squad right there. That is beyond what an Australian can afford. That is beyond what most people can. That is a week's wage in Australia. I mean, that's not part of a week's wage. That is an entire week's wage for someone on regular income here in Australia. Not great, especially, because we just had a pandemic price rise as well, another price rise from Forge World. Go them, another 5 or 10% when inflation is like 2.5%. Yeah, fucking smart move right there. Anyway, I'm back with the Outer Circle. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you going to convert this up? And if so, what are you going to use to convert them with? Do you think they should be Tartarus? Do you think they should be Cataphracti? Are you an Australian, and are you going to convert this unit as I can see it on this page right now? Are you that kind of mag lad? Are you going to shop with less reputable suppliers or third-party retailers in order to convert this unit? I want to know. And what do you think of the rules? Do you think they're perfectly balanced, or are you like me and you think that actually they're probably a little bit too good for the points level that they come in at? Yes, they're expensive to buy the base unit of 5, but the points is so few for so much good stuff on the additionals that, it's going to be really good. Let me know what you think. That's how this works. Back with the Outer Circle. Thank you all for watching the video, and I'll see you all on the next one.